What's up, guys? I am here with another video, another top 10, but this time it's top 10 cards in LOR, period. And I'm going about this at a logical sense. So by design, by concept, what are the top 10 cards? And I'm going to be tackling this at a lot of different angles. And if there's a card that you think that should be on the list, let me know down below and why. But getting off at number 10, and these are loosely ranked from 10 to 1, but it is going to be Legion Saboteur. I think this card is just, ever since it got released on the first beta release, I believe, it has been so ridiculous. Just turn 1 3 damage, instantly punishing every slow deck and trading off with every early deck. And if you get to attack first, you always get an extra damage in, which always seems to matter a lot with Noxus decks. And so I think almost out of all of early game Noxus cards, Legion Saboteur has always been a staple, and it's always been kind of like a very foundational card for those decks. Moving on is Green Glade Duo. You get +1 every time you summon an ally, and I felt like this card gets to see a lot of combo decks, sees a lot of uses, especially in the elusive decks. This card always makes a heavy impact and a big presence, as always being a win condition, being super cheap, and above all else, you can kind of trade with it with bigger creatures, so it can be a big defense weapon as well. So that's why it's number 9, and it has big late game potential, and that's why I put it over Legion Saboteur. Next, a very personal favorite of mine, something I hope gets a little bit better, is Ancient Yeti. Round N, reduce my cost by 1. And I've always liked this card. I believe this was on release as well. This card has always just been super cool, well designed, because you want to get in your starting hand and it gets so cheap. And I think the earliest you can play it is turn 4 for 3 mana. And I think that is just so cool. It's turn 4, 5/5. And if you can get lucky and get an extra mana gem and you play on turn 3, ooh, such a ridiculous card. But how you do that, I don't know. But I think as the game develops, I think Yetis are going to be even stronger. And I think this card is going to have a huge presence. And it's going to be really strong and ridiculous. But moving on to number 7. Kaido the Arm. And I felt like this one doesn't see a lot of play. But the use of him is very impressive. He was supposed to be with the girl in the picture, which is a separate card where every time she deals damage to the Nexus is doubled. But I feel like him getting partnered with Vi and the double strike from Demacia and Ionia, I think he's proved to be a versatile card that provides a huge threat on the board. And I feel like that's one of the best cards in the game for that reason, is that he empowers a lot of champions. For example, Vi. But you can also put him with like someone like Gnosis, who needs to hit to transform, and you can pair him up with Trendemir and just get all that overwhelm damage. And you don't care if they both die, because Trendemir will come back, and you already did all the damage you want to with Kaido the Arm. Because I feel like with support champions, when they're like Kaido and you get that high value, or if they have that high value ability of +3 and overwhelm, you just need to get once and you're done with supporting. However, with like Ionian support, they're kind of, you want to use them a lot and get a lot of early value out of it. But moving on to number 6, the Dreadway. This card doesn't go in a lot of burn decks, but there are really good burn decks in Bilgewater that uses this card, that keeps it in meta. And I think it's super interesting because it's double all damage dealt by your skills, spells, and allies. And with Jin being the new being able to pull in all champions with skills. This is one that I'm kind of curious about. Is that Jin and Dredgeway would be such a ridiculous combo because of all these damaging skills that could potentially come out, all the damaging spells. It's all really interesting and excited to see what will happen in the future, but Dredgeway is kind of proving that it is a huge late game condition, and because of kind of like higher level play, how long the games go, dropping this could really change the game. And I think conceptually this is just a huge bomb that as the game grows it might slip in the cracks and provide a huge meta shift. Citrus Courier, I don't know. Plunder, heal allies and your Nexus 3 and then rally. I felt like this card was super underrated. Because I think for 6 mana 4/5, it's like, it's a little weak, but you really just play him for his plunder cost, which is great for like Misfortune Quinn decks, especially with Scout. You can get a 3rd attack, which is just absolutely insane, and you get to heal, so you can really be aggressive and really take those attacks. And when Bill Draw to Release and this card was a part of them, it was super interesting to see him. And it's a fun strategy to play around because he is a late game drop at turn 6. Well, it is late game for decks like Misfortune, decks with Misfortune, just because you probably want to be winning around then. So, super cool card. Definitely deserving of, I believe, 5th place, because it's going to be 4, 3, 2. Yep, 5th place. Moving on to 4, Mystic Shot. Simple and beautiful. 2 mana. Deal 2 to anything at fast speed. And I feel like it's like the perfect amount of, it's low enough in terms of cost and damage that most people probably don't want to counter it, but it's so effective because there's so many cards that are 3/2s, 2/2s, or 1 health, that this card is just such a big presence, and it has to be played in every Piltover is on deck because of how useful it is. I think 4th place is very deserving. I feel like in terms of utility, it should be 1st. However, I feel like the next 3 cards conceptually are vastly better than this. This is just simplicity at its finest. Reminds me of Magic the Gathering and all of their burn spells. Shared Spoils at 3rd place. Conceptually, one of the best cards. Not even my favorite. One of the best cards. You grant the top 3 units in your deck +1/+1. Which, if you're playing Freyord in a more of a faster mid-range strategy, this is huge. And you combine it with the Plunder, you draw one of them. Oh my gosh. It's burst, so people can't even react to it. Like, this is just all around such a value card, such an incredibly high value, and I feel like people just overlook this card a lot. But I think in high level, this is one of the best draw power cards that Freyord has because it's only 2 mana. You just have to get damage across, and so many low cost units have Overwhelm. That's not that hard, and you can combine Freyord with Noxus, which is commonly done, and you can use a lot, like Legion Saboteur, and you can just get all that easy damage across. You can give them +1s, and you can draw one of them. Such a great card. Moving on to number 2, the Leviathan, and I'm a little bit biased. If you haven't seen my past videos, Leviathan's one of my favorite cards, but the reason for that is that ships are super cool. Because when you play the ship, you get the champion. So in this case, you get Swain. But round start, you deal 1 to the enemy Nexus 3 times, which can trigger a lot of abilities. It's 3 damage every single round, meaning they're on automatically on a 7-turn clock. It's a 5/8 with Overwhelm. So it is pretty tanky considering its ability. You do get a champion out of it, and it's really expensive, but I didn't want cost, to lower down a lot of these cards, because I think conceptually this card's amazing, and I feel like if you lower it to a 7 cost, this card would be too strong. Like, realistically, I really do believe that. I think a 7 cost would be too low for the Leviathan. So 8 is where it has to be balanced. And man, I don't know what else to say, honestly. This is just a really good card. If you... A lot of decks. I love the early... Before all these new cards came out, I think when Bilgewater came out and these ships were a part of that release, the idea of just having a pure just poke deck where you just kind of sit back and you just let all the damage trickle over their heads, because that's what is one of my favorite decks, because you didn't care about blocking or attacking. You just wanted to swing. You get your damage across. You hit them with mystic shots. You have your Demaciates, and you play the Leviathan, and you get Swain. And the main reason why you would use Swain is this high level idea of, it's draw power. That's always cool, but it's also getting Swain out of my deck so I can draw something useful or more useful. And that's kind of one of the things I really liked playing with Leviathan, or even the Dredgeway, is that these cards is incredible draw power getting your champion, but it's also decreasing the cards that you could draw, and so you can get what you want or get another win condition, and it's always really good. And I think they should keep producing these ship-based cards, because I think it's really healthy for the game, especially if they make them so expensive. But as long as they're expensive with really good abilities like Leviathan, like the Dredgeway, I think it's fine. I think Misfortune's ship is a little bit meh. Sejuani's ship is super strong as well, but I think these abilities are definitely way better and deserving of top 10. And for the next two are just honorable mentions. First one being Flash Freeze, Burst, and then Frostbite turns the unit's power into 0. I think this is just exactly like Mystic Shot. Super simple, but very strong. You can't react to it, and so you have to just take the spell and try to buff it, which is a really nice component of the game that's better than Magic the Gathering, is that there are a good amount of spells where you can't stop it. You have to deal with it. And I really do like that aspect of the game. It annoys the crap out of me sometimes, but I have to get over it because it is good. It is a good way, because Magic, because everything goes on the stack, you just get into these rage wars, is kind of the best way I would like to describe it, of just, I'll do this, and then I'll do that, and then this, that, and the other thing. In LOR, I do like that it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. You can't react until after it's take effect. Now what are you going to do? And it's like, man, shoot. So, super cool card, like the simplicity. Moving on to Radiant Guardian. I think this was on release as well, and I think foundationally one of the strongest cards. I wish it was still a 5/5. However, when she's summoned and an ally has died this turn, it gets lifesteal and tough. One of the biggest just walls in the game, right? You gaining health. It's hard to kill. It's one of the few cards that back then you had to carry a hard kill spell just to deal with Radiant Guardian, because you could literally let the game slip away through you just from the lifesteal alone, and it's just going to be such a devastating block, because even if you trade Radiant Guardian, they're going to gain health, and that's just super unfortunate. So, super cool card. Moving on to the best card in the game, in my opinion, Shipwreck Hoarder. Now, it's deep, and then it says, when I'm summoned, toss 2 and create 2 treasures in your deck. These treasures are as follows. Keelbreaker, if I'm tossed, draw me instead, deal 5 to all units. If I'm tossed, draw me instead, and summon 3 viscous plate worms, which I believe are 8/8s when they're deep. If not, they're 3/5/5s. And then lastly, Treasure Trove. Create 5 random cards in hand. They cost 0 and are fleeting. If I'm tossed, draw me instead. And then there's the... Oh, they also have Fearsome. And this is just like, for 7 mana, 7/5 can become a 9/7. Oh, it's +3/+3. Excuse me. 10/8. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. This is just conceptually the best card in the game because the treasures are super useful, and because of how deep works, they have 0, like, they don't need hard draw power. They have so much toss power. And because the treasures are, oh, if I'm tossed, just bring me to your hand. And there's a 1 mana toss 4. And so when you go deep, there's only 15 cards in your deck. So if you are deep at this point, which is very easy to do, especially when you get to turn 7, you can just play that, most likely get one of the treasures, and you can probably play it. Especially if it's the next turn, which might be turn 8, you have 8 mana, like you spend 1, you still got 7 mana, and they each cost 5, so you can play at least 1. And truly, deal 5 to everything. You get 3 8/8s, or you just play a treasure and they all cost 0, and you could possibly just play all 5 of them. Like, it's just like, very rarely is it a lose situation when you get to treasures. Sometimes you already lost the game, and that's understandable. But this card can swing you games, and I think it's just one of those cards that I feel like if LOR gets into the, like, what Magic has is like, what's it called now? All the extended sets, like Legacy and Modern. I think Shipwreck Hoarder would definitely be one of those cards that they're going to want to put out there just for those treasures, because it's going to be such a hard win con for them. But it's just a generally good card. And this is just high level. This is, or not high level. This is my opinion. Just no thoughts on the meta. I think just conceptually, what are the best cards in the game? What are the best design cards that they've put out? Because I think there's a lot of cards that are too high for what they do, or should be able to do more. And I think these cards are the best ones that they have produced so far, excluding champions. I really want to exclude the champions just because I'm going to do a separate video on those, which is going to be next. So stay tuned tomorrow for that. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.